How's it going, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Crypto Clout. I am your host, FaZe Crypto, and today we're going to be talking about DigiByte. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin, the current value of Bitcoin, of course, being 9,382. And then, of course, I would like to talk about, all these different things that we've been seeing happening in the cryptocurrency world. But first, I think I'd like to just start off with a bit of a rant, if you'd entertain that. And it's about blockchain. And it's about, just when we look at the history of the internet, and we see just, of course, the internet was created and, conceptualized, and businesses basically had to make a decision whether or not they were going to create a website. And if a business hadn't reached a certain point of an online presence, it really does damage their bottom line. And much the same thing is occurring right now when it comes to blockchain. And, it is interesting because, we look at like the internet as it existed in the early days of that time period. And a lot of those websites that were leading figure, the internet's a constantly evolving thing. So this is an interesting article. Here's a look at Bitcoin's future as an Ethereum token. So the crypto community has been seeing a lot of effort recently to, in injecting Bitcoin into, the DeFi ecosystem. The latest implementation of BTC on Ethereum blockchain and went live just last week. So this is interesting. The quote, "You can move Bitcoin around. This is a transfer of value, but right now we can't do that between chains. If I want to send you a Bitcoin, I have to send you Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain, and I don't really have another option. But with Ren, it's basically one chain, and the user does not have to worry about different chains. And centralization is indeed one major concern here. If Bitcoin or any other asset or tokenized on the Ethereum network, they have basically dependent on exchanges that issue them. In fact, Ethereum's has also been very been happy with the increase in the number of Bitcoin-backed tokens on the Ethereum network. Now this is interesting. It does speak, to the point that I'm, illustrating here. The broader, nuance. And of course, this is interesting as well. The worst crisis in a century is setting the stage for Bitcoin. The current pandemic has ravaged the economies of countries all around the world and is showing no signs of stopping. The overwhelming response from global governing bodies has been to place their countries under full or partial lockdowns. This has arguably saved many lives, but the economic fallout has been savage. The United States alone is on track to see a 30% rate of unemployment and an unprecedented 30% drop in gross domestic product. China, the European Union, Japan, and the United Kingdom aren't faring that much better. In such uncertain times, indicators are naturally nervous. Investors are nervous, looking at those indicators after the massive crash in March. And amid raising joblessness and fear, the stock market is back to registering new highs in the middle of a pandemic. The American Main Street and Wall Street appear to be living in parallel universes, suggesting that the latest recovery could be little more than a bubble, a dangerous bubble at that. When the massive March sell-off spilled over into the crypto and Bitcoin, subsequently, went as low as 3,600. It shook the faith of those touting Bitcoin's safe haven narrative. However, in the weeks since then, Bitcoin has recovered faster than any other asset. If the global macro situation worsens, we may see some more downtrend price pressure on Bitcoin in the short term. Meanwhile, the long-term outlook for Bitcoin could not be more bullish. Here's why the worst crisis in the century is setting the stage for Bitcoin. Well, into infinite quantitative easing, as long as, along with the lockdowns, other measures that has been taken, especially by, nations, is to throw money at the problem. More than $8 trillion has been spent globally to counter, in effect, and we're still in we're still in the midst of the current crisis. It's becoming clear that the $8 trillion is not enough. So how much will will be enough, and how suitable will that be? In contrast, Bitcoin has become more scarce. Scarcity definitely is playing a big role here, almost as if to showcase arguably Bitcoin's key quality, the Bitcoin halving reduced the block rewards for miners, meaning that unlike fiat, its supply will go down. It's such a stark contrast that even skeptics have to stop and think, or at least study the value of owning some Bitcoin. The haven status of BTC would seem to be regaining ground as it aims to test the 10K barrier once again post halving, despite the Black Thursday event and the volatility. It has shown impressive recovery and is still up 35% year to date. In fact, after this third halving and the recent rush on gold, Bitcoin as digital gold holds more weight now than ever. The demand for gold will cause its production to increase, yet very soon Bitcoin's inflation rate will be even harder than that of gold. And it is interesting, and this is part that's relevant to DigiByte. The industry keeps growing despite record unemployment. The cryptocurrency space has been growing strong, with many firms, particularly exchanges, on hiring spree. Definitely interesting to see, more eyes turning to Bitcoin. And we'll watch, and see how a lot of these different variables. But I think, what's good for Bitcoin definitely is good for DigiByte. And what's good for DigiByte is good for the entire blockchain space. And it'll be very interesting just to see how a lot of these different variables will be compounding. We'll be seeing a lot more, of these aspects, really coming into their own. And it will be interesting just to watch, just how many of these different things, let's watch this video right here, about, with one of my favorite billionaires, just to get a fresher outlook.
We're at the lowest interest rates in 5,000 years. What are you going to tell your grandchildren? What are you going to tell your children 20, 25 years from now? What did you do, Grandpa? What did you do, Grandma, during the greatest transformation of motherfucking wealth in the history of the world?
Now, I don't want to continue to play that audio because there's music in the background, and I don't want to give them my ad revenue, but you get the point. This guy's really passionate. He's like, what did you do with the greatest transformation of wealth in the history of the world? It does make me think about Bitcoin. It does make me think about blockchain, and by extension DigiByte. You can't really ignore, and of course, while we watch the current paradigm shift happen, I think the potential, for a $10 DigiByte, you think about like a $50,000 Bitcoin, $100,000 Bitcoin. If you're a believer in that, then it's no big mystery to imagine that something like DigiByte could easily be worth, especially with blockchain, the amount of time that DigiByte's been around, so many different things. But of course, remember, this video is for entertainment, educational purposes only. Of course, I'm not your dad. I'm not your financial advisor. This video is for entertainment, educational purposes only. Make sure that you do your own research, because this is a high risk, high volatility space. This is an interesting article right here. We could see Bitcoin falling to $7,000. In the short term, Bitcoin has been consolidating within the lower $9,000 region for the past day, struggling to garner any upward momentum in the time following the latest rejection at 9,700. Bitcoin flashes signs of fundamental strength despite inability to reach 10K. We'll see where things go in the short term. We are in uncertain times economically and socially and all these other things, so we will have to just watch what happens. But it will be very interesting just to see, where a lot of these different variables bring themselves, in particular while we watch. We're all sort of on the edge of our seats, waiting to see what happens. But yeah, all that being said, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. Make sure that you guys comment and subscribe, and let us know what you think. And I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure that you connect with us on Twitter, and definitely I'm glad to be making this content. I think we did a pretty good job with this video. It will be interesting to see what happens with the community, the DigiByte community, and by extension the entire current paradigm shift that we're seeing happening with the beautiful technology that is blockchain. With all that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. See you guys in the next one. Have a good one.